All right, guys. Well, we might get started, Naz. Thank you, AQA community, for joining us. Today we'll be talking about our Indonesia trip that we had in August, and in particular, we'll be speaking to a lot of some of the access challenges that we had, and the tips and tricks that we used, and yeah, really just speaking to this awesome opportunity. So we're going to be showing a few videos, a few photos, and speaking to that, and no, it's just speaking to that individual journey, I guess, as we went there.
Yeah, look, it was an amazing trip. So we only got back a month ago, and it was pretty hectic. I don't know if anyone's been to Southeast Asia, but you can understand that. Well, you'll know it's a great place, very unique, and access is a big issue, Josh. It's what
And
makes
maybe start there,
it.
Naz. We went there. What did we go there for? We initially went there to promote wheelchair rugby and, I guess, disability awareness.
That's right. And access, just letting people know access is important and what access looks like as well, because a lot of people don't know what sort of things they need to put in place to make, the streets and hotels and all that sort of stuff wheelchair accessible.
Exactly. And I think we should give a shout out to the Bali Sports Foundation and the Australian Jakarta Embassy, which helped put this together. But I guess to give a bit of a snapshot before we get to the nitty gritty and talking to the individual places that we went to, we had a video that we wanted to kick off with, Nas, that gives a bit of
Yeah.
a snapshot.
Yeah. All right. Give me a sec while I bring this up. And apologies, guys. We've got lots of photos and videos and they're in different folders. So we're going to have to just spend a few seconds finding the video. So this one here is a summary of the overall trip. So I'll share my screen and we'll have a look at that. It's only about, 20 seconds or so.
So just also, the audience, if you have any questions, please put them in as we go along. And, that might be to when we're showing pictures of boarding the plane, different hotels. If there's something in particular that comes to your mind, I really encourage you guys to ask that question and we can try and answer as best we can.
All right, so here it is. Hopefully everyone can see it. So this is just a snapshot. So that was it. Introduction, 10-second introduction of the summary that we've done. You might have seen some photos off there of the hotel rooms, transport, and what we came across along the way. We're going to share some photos as well of that.
I guess getting into it now, I'm not sure for the others, but my end it was a bit distorted, the sound. But this all starts off with booking a ticket now. So when you're buying a ticket, what do you do in particular when you're looking to book your ticket to go on the plane? What are the things that we need to consider? Also, I guess some of the audience need to take in mind and what you do with yourself when booking a ticket.
Definitely, I think it's really important to speak to, especially if you haven't traveled before, or even if you have traveled before, it's important to speak to people that have done it, and because we've problem solved a lot of things along the way, and we know what you need to do equipment wise, what you need to take, and who you need to speak to. It's really important to not book tickets online. Speak to someone from I don't know, can I promote Flight Centre here, Josh? We spoke to Flight Centre on the phone and told them about our needs. We took you off. It's a must that you tell them that you're in a wheelchair, because they, when you get to the airport, it's important that they know that you're going to have extra equipment, and also that you'll be needing an wheelchair with you as well.
And then I guess some of the things to consider there is they may ask when you're booking, in particular with Flight Centre, I guess the dimensions of your chair, the width, the height, and the depth. And then I guess equally for those using a power chair, in some cases the battery size can be a thing that needs to be mentioned. And then, as you get more, I guess, confident and start venturing out, I know domestic probably wouldn't advise it, but you can book a ticket and just wait till you get there and inform them. So, but it's always best practice to do hand beforehand.
Exactly right. And we travelled with a lot of equipment and got to let people know. So we took our rugby chairs. I use a shower chair when I go away, and our luggage as well as, catheters and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if we've got a photo of that, but you can imagine there's a lot of equipment. So 2 manual wheelchairs, 2 rugby chairs, shower chair, and our personal luggage. So that's quite a lot.
And yeah, just for reference, I think I traveled with 4, and then Naz was traveling with 9. That said, Naz has got to bring his combs, so there's 1 bag of combs that I guess get counted as extra baggage, but that's all fine. So Naz, you're at the airport. What's the general rundown? You just go to the check-in gate, or what's the go? Can I take my chair from the check-in to the boarding gate?
Yeah.
What's the layout?
Yeah. So before that, Josh, I've got to mention when you're buying tickets, don't go with a low cost airline. We make sure that we travel with like a full service airline, like Qantas, for example. Virgin is the same, but I've got to say Jetstar, for example. I'm going to say I wouldn't book with Jetstar only because they charge for excess luggage. Doesn't matter if you're traveling with sports chairs or medical equipment, they consider all of that as excess luggage. So Qantas won't charge you for any of that. So that's really important to take note of. So when you get to the airport, the staff over there are really helpful. You just got to know what you need to do. So at the airport, you'll find a lot of people that are at the airport. Of course, you don't know what role each person's got, but if you go to the checkout counter with your equipment, even if you've got a lot of equipment, you can sort of leave it aside somewhere and just go to the counter and say, look, I've got that equipment. Can you help me bring it to the counter? And they're very helpful. They'll bring it to the counter, and then you got to make sure you've got all your luggage with you, and they tag it all, of course. The larger items like your wheelchair, that won't be checked into the counter. That's got to be tagged and pushed to the oversized luggage. But with your manual wheelchair or your power wheelchair, you got to make sure, and they're pretty good. Qantas, I've got to say, is pretty good, but you got to let them know that you want to go to the gate of the plane, all the way to the gate, and transfer to the aisle chair from your wheelchair. And then they'll take that away. And of course, when you've got an airline ticket, you haven't got like a wheelchair seat. All the seats are available to you. So whichever seat you're on, the staff will take you in the aisle chair to whichever seat you're given, and you transfer onto that seat. And they're very
And then
helpful
just
too.
And just talking to us, there's a question that came here through David. He was asking about, do you travel with support workers, and how, I guess, do you get the assistance at the airport? Because I know for myself, it's hard to lift all my bags when I've traveled alone, but I think it's peace of mind to know when you get to the airport, I guess you can problem solve, and actually people there will assist, I guess, from the airport staff. So how do you manage that? And do you travel with a support worker?
No, so I have. A lot of times, of course, I've travelled with a team, for example, for wheelchair rugby. You've got lots of hands, everyone's available to give you a hand. But this time and many other times, I've travelled on my own, so without a support worker. As long as you know what you need and you can communicate it with the airline staff, there's no problem at all, However, if you're say you need to go to the toilet and, help with your food, the staff are really helpful, but there's limitations on what they'll do for you. So if you can transfer, get to your seat, it's all good. There's no issues usually.
And I think just for a breakdown that for Naz, both of us took the taxi to the airport. So, and then I had the taxi man bring mine inside to a certain distance. He was
Yeah.
very helpful. And then from there, I was able to find another bit of, I guess, staff within the airport to help assist to the correct gate. And then obviously I was there early and Naz was there late. So within that, Naz was able to call me, and then the person that assisted me, I then sent them out. But keeping in mind, we went there with none of this as a game plan, and it's just knowing that there's ways to get about it.
And thanks for pointing out that I was late, Josh, because if anyone knows me, I'm always running late.
And no, it's just on that. Now, my understanding is for those that don't have, I guess, the functionality to be able to transfer, what are the other options that Qantas, Virgin, and these other larger airlines provide?
That's a great point, and that's why it's important to speak to a flight centre, or even when you go to the check-in, that you need help with transferring. So if you need a slide board, they've got slide boards at the airport, so you don't have to take your own. Of course, if you use a slide board, it makes sense that you're going to need it, so you're going to take it with you. But if you can't transfer it, they've got a thing called an eagle hoist. So just like a hoist, in people's bedrooms, there's a version of that for the airlines, and they'll hoist you at the gate of the plane all the way to your seat.
Yeah, fantastic. And then, Naz, when you're getting on, do you take your wheels off, take them on board? What do you leave on the chair, and what do you take?
Yeah, that's another thing that is worthwhile pointing out. So you don't take the wheelchair with you. It goes to the under plane luggage area, I guess, or compartment. They take your wheelchair and put it into there. You don't have to take the wheels off. It goes in one piece. But I always make sure that I take anything that's going to fall off the wheelchair, like your cushion, if you got armrests, if you got what else, side guards, skirt guards, you take them off if they're going to fall off. So you take them with you and put them onto the compartments once you're in the plane on top of you. Same for your backpack as well.
And then I guess adding to Naz what you take on the plane. I know for myself when I'm traveling now, just for disclaimer, this happens rarely. It might be, 0.01% Naz, but I know for myself when I travel, I take, maybe a day or two's worth of catheters and any sort of other continence needs that you may need, because even though it has happened once where the bag sort of got misplaced, but keeping in mind they're really great at tracking it down, and it came the next day when I've traveled internationally. But it's always good to take a few, whether you need medication, and as I said, any of those continent needs. Is it something you do in particular?
Yeah, that's really important. When that has happened before, or anything unexpected could happen on a plane. So you got to be prepared for that sort of stuff. So you break up your equipment. So catheters, for example, medication, take like 3 or 4 days supply of catheters or medication in your backpack, your carry-on luggage. All the rest of it, you can check in. But really important to take a few days worth of anything that you'll need along with you.
Lovely. So I guess Naz, we've boarded the plane, so we've checked our luggage, all that's through. Always important, guys, that they've also tagged your chair. So this is where you got to be a bit accountable and make sure you get your passport, got all those other things. So you're on the plane, Naz, and you need to go use the toilet or whatever. How do I do it on there? Do they have an aisle chair? Can I fit in the toilet? Like, how can this be done?
So sometimes, even though I've travelled quite a bit, the aisle chair is usually on the plane. So they've got the airplane's own aisle chair. So, you can depend on that, but it's always worth, don't assume, make sure you ask that there's going to be an aisle chair on the plane if you need it. Usually I don't need to use the bathroom, even on the long haul flights, but going to Bali, Indonesia, what is it? It's about 6.5 hour flight. You can, I don't need to use an aisle chair. If I need to change my catheter or do a catheter, a lot of people don't realise, but you can actually do it while you're seated. You can, use a blanket to cover yourself up, and if needed, do it where you are.
Mm. Then there's another question came through from Dave. He was asking about how many items can you take, because he was questioned by Qantas, and I believe a similar circumstance happened with yourself with your 20 bags of combs. I think by the end of this webinar, it's going to be 50. But back to the main point, how many bags you allowed, what adaptive equipment, and maybe how do you explain that to the staff, whether it's medical, because we were Googling trying to prove to the individual that we were within our rights.
That's right. So This was on the flight home. So at the Qantas desk, and they tagged all our luggage, and then they came back saying, we've got, I don't know, 40 kilos of excess baggage. And we said, no, you can't charge us for our sports chairs. So you can take one piece of sporting equipment and they don't treat that as excess baggage. Your medical equipment, like, you travel away with lots, especially catheters. So you got to highlight that that's medical equipment and that shouldn't be counted as excess luggage. The only thing, again, you need to know what's allowable and what's not. Your spare clothing. So that is baggage that they need to weigh. And if you are carrying more than the allowable amount, which is, usually between 20 and 30 kilos, that they're going to charge you for. But yeah, it's only like clothing and stuff like that they need to consider.
And I might add to that for the adaptive equipment. I travel sometimes, in particular, if I'm off to Europe, and I'm going to be doing a lot more Ks where it's not necessarily as accessible with the Baytech. So that's an adaptive equipment that clips onto the front of my chair, and that's a power assist option. And so within that, there's some rules and regulations regarding the battery size. It's got to be under 300 cc Duracell. I might be wrong with some of the language there, but there is something you can check with the relevant supplier of your adaptive equipment, and they'll have a lot of the traveling options that you need to consider. And so when I'm traveling with that, I have been asked before, Naz, is do you put that in a bag? How do you transport it in between? So I use it the whole time from the boarding gate. It's from the check-in to the boarding gate. So I articulate to the audience that it's a part of my my wheelchair, my mobility device, and then they take both down. So I disconnect it, I transfer onto the aisle seat, and then they'll take that down, both items, and to the cargo hold.
No,
Nice.
exactly right. Yeah. Just saw a couple of other questions come up as well. I think we've answered some of these, but I'll go again. One is, do you have a support person that carries your luggage? Like I said, if you haven't got anyone with you, you can find a staff from the counter, Qantas staff, or there's volunteers at Melbourne Airport as well. They're super helpful. So you'll get them. You'll identify what needs to be taken across, and they'll handle all of that. There was another question: how do you move all your luggage through the airport? So when I travel with my rugby chair, for example, I use that as a trolley. So I load that up with my spare wheels, with my clothes, all of that stuff, and I'll push that along. So yeah, it's quite easy, especially if you know your options on different ways of you can push your rugby chair as well as your other equipment. That's a worst case scenario. But again, if you can't do that, you can find help.
I was just thinking maybe now, so finding the video of you on the aisle chair with no foot plate might be a good idea.
Oh yeah, okay. That sometimes you can be prepared as much as possible, but unexpected things do happen. Just before I do that, someone asked about how do you deal with flight transfers. So say we were going to Indonesia and we had to go through Sydney. I would avoid that. I always try to get a direct flight and don't try to get a transfer anywhere. Even if it's like, what do you call it? Say it's $200 cheaper to fly through Sydney to go to Indonesia, I would pay that extra $200, to make life easier.
But sometimes that noise the case, and while it adds a little bit to it, I know some people know they if they're going to Europe, they might stop in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or Singapore to break the trip up.
Yeah,
Me
that's a good
personally, I like
idea.
to get it done in one go. But I know that's an option for some people, for management of bladder and bowel. That's an option to consider, depending on your own personal needs.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Our bums are pretty tough, but, we've got to be cautious of pressure sores. So I know a lot of people who are going to Europe, for example, that's like a 20-hour flight non-stop. to break it up. Some people fly to Dubai, spend a few hours there or spend a night there. That makes sense, But again, it's an individual thing. So it depends on how experienced you are with traveling. You can decide to have a layover or go all the way. I like getting to wherever I'm going as soon as I can. So I try to avoid stopovers or staying anywhere overnight. I'll just take it to the start. So this is a video of
You can't move anywhere.
getting off the plane. And so they brought the old chair, and you can see I've jumped onto the old chair, but there was no foot plates on the old chair. So, sometimes things like this happen. So you just got to relax, keep calm, and explain to them that, you can't lift your legs up and they need to find the foot plates. So here it is.
What's going on, boss? What's going on, Naz?
Look, I'm on the seat, but you can't move anywhere because there's no foot plate on the chair. So we're trying to work out what we're going to do next.
There you go.
Trying to look at the options, but
So yeah, sometimes you gotta have a laugh, and just stay relaxed and let them know that what your needs are. So this is one example of no foot plates, but there's many examples. So you just got to communicate what your needs are, and let them know, and they'll go sort it out.
Yeah, and it's hard from that because there's things that are in their control, not in our control, and you can plan a lot of these things. And I know we're flying with the more reputable airlines, and you may articulate several times. We need, I guess, an aisle chair or a boarding bridge, which you shouldn't really have to. You think it'd be pretty obvious, and you rock up there, and it's not the case. And we didn't have footage, Naz, but I know we got carried off because they didn't have the aisle chair, which I wouldn't recommend. It puts you at a bit of high risk, but you've got to adapt and I guess get off the plane. Put it simply, yeah.
That's right. So that was pretty unexpected because usually, whichever country you go to, they've got wheelchairs. In Indonesia, like 80–90% of the times, they didn't have any wheelchairs. And sometimes you got to go with the flow. You got to tell them, okay, what do we do? You try to problem solve, and in the end, they lifted us out, out and down the stairs, and just carried us. Two people, one from under the knees, one from the back. They just sort of double lifted us down the stairs and into our chairs. So if that situation happens, again, you got to stay calm and just let them know that you can't stand. Of course, it's natural that they know that, but sometimes they actually don't know, and you just got to instruct them where to lift you, where to hold you, all that sort of stuff. So you got to consider your own safety. So communicate well what your needs are, and also you got to consider their safety as well. So if you think they're going to hurt themselves, just highlight that. Say, look, that's not the right way to do it. Maybe you hold me in this position, for example.
So when you get off the plane, there's the boarding bridge. So that's just the thing that connects to the plane to the airport. So what I'm talking to there, guys, I might just play this one first. That's coming up on the screen, Naz.
Yeah, I can see you on the bridge. It's
all right. This is what they should have, guys, is a boarding bridge. And I'm being a little bit slack. Again, assisted pushing up.
That's steep hill.
And then, so this is what you should have, guys. And then what happens if you don't have this? As Naz said, you've got to improvise. So luckily, and one thing you can do, I set Naz off first to be the test dummy. So that always helps. And then he can film. And then this is what Naz filmed.
So again, no old chair. They brought our manual chairs onto the plane, and teamwork, about 10 guys it took to get us down that little plane. But again, I've got to say that they're super helpful.
They are. They're very helpful.
Yeah.
And I was holding on very tight, Naz, to the side of the thing there.
Yeah.
And obviously thank them. High fives all around. Beautiful. Alright.
Yeah, so sometimes, you know, it's not ideal, but it works. You make it work, you know. Again, you just got to problem solve along the way, talk to them. Communication is an issue as well. Sometimes, you know, you tell them what your needs are, and because there's a language barrier, they don't understand, you know, so they'll nod their heads, and sometimes don't assume that they understood what you say. And Google Translate, it's fantastic, guys. So any chance you get, use Google Translate.
Beautiful. So Naz, we've spoken a lot there. We finally got to Bali. Then what's some things you got to consider at the airport there? You had the visa, we had to check in for, and then obviously things happen, things change. I think we had to wait 2 hours for actual transport to get us to our hotel. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. You know, sometimes things don't happen quick. It's not very organised, but you go there knowing that it's not going to be organised and you're going to come across issues. And honestly, like, that would shit a lot of people, but it's a bit of a challenge sometimes as well. So if you look at it as a bit of a challenge, bit of a fun situation, I think, I don't know, I love that, you know. I mean, it's not fun, but yeah, again, bit of a challenge.
It's experience, Naz. I'm not sure if you had the map there or not, but so to keep in mind, guys, we're here for 2 weeks pretty much, and throughout this trip, the plan was, and this is the thing, you got to be, I guess, a bit adapt. Can I say adaptful? Is that a word? Or look to adapt. So the plan was to start for Bali 3 days, head down to Kupang, which is in Timor-Leste. Then there was a travel down to Atambua, and then the plan was to go to Dili, then fly to I'm going to murder the name, Latambua, somewhere there, and then from there we're going to go to Jakarta. So there's a bit of a plan down. I'm not sure if you had the map there, Naz.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to find it.
I wouldn't worry about it. But then, so what happened, guys, was that was the original plan, 3 days in Bali. And then we arrived there. So we arrived about pretty much midnight, 1 o'clock, you know, we'll get there about 11. We get in about 1 o'clock to our rooms. And then instead of staying for 3 days, we've been informed that we need to then travel back to the airport the next morning. So it was pretty much an 8-hour stay or thereabouts in Bali now. So a bit of a change of plan.
Yeah, lots of plans changed along the way. That was the first one, you know. I mean, we got to Bali thinking we're going to spend 3 days there. It's going to be great. We're going to relax, you know, on the beach and all that sort of stuff. And when we got there, we got to the hotel about midnight, and we were told 9 o'clock, we got to be, actually before 9 o'clock, got to check out to get another flight. So that was unexpected, but again, it worked out because at the end of the trip, we weren't meant to go to Bali, and we ended up staying a few days in Bali, which balanced it all out.
Now thinking ahead as well, now, so we're at the hotel. One of the things you like to express and ask about is bed heights.
Yes.
So when we got there, the bed height wasn't really conducive to how you can transfer independently enough. So what are some of the tips around that you sort of take into place? First thing aside is obviously informing, I guess, the hotel if they have suitable bed heights.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when you book because we never done any of the booking for the accommodation, so that was done for us. But even when you book it yourself, you know, a lot of places say we're accessible and all that sort of stuff, but accessible means many things to different people. So I know a lot of times, you know, the beds might be too low, too high to transfer. Josh is like Superman, so he can transfer onto any height. Whereas me, it's got to be pretty much the same height as what my wheelchair is. And a lot of the hotel rooms that we stayed at, the beds were really high. I'm trying to find a photo. While I'm talking, I'll find the photo and share it with you. But it's the highest bed I've ever seen. Like, it was made for a giant.
So how do you adapt to that now? It's one of the things you consider. Like, how do you negate that?
Yeah, so what I usually do is I ask them to remove the legs. So, you know, beds have usually got legs or wheels underneath. I get them to remove it, and then that lowers the bed height to a more manageable bed height. Down the photo, let me just share this. But sometimes they can't always remove the legs off the bed. So I'm just
So in that circumstance, if you can't move the legs from the bed, what was your other option?
so it's the first time I've ever done it. So I don't know if you can see me beside a bed there.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
there.
that's coming up. So it's pretty deceiving, but the height of that bed is pretty much above my belly button. It's actually way above my belly button. So there's no way I'm going to get onto there. And the wheels or the legs, they couldn't remove. So I actually told them, I said, look, if you can't remove the legs, I'm stuck. I can't get to bed. Said, look, can I grab a couple of guys to lift me into bed? And it wasn't an issue for them at all. In Australia, you wouldn't ask because most likely they're not going to be able to do it. But over there, you just tell them what your needs are, and they lifted me in and out of bed, believe it or not, and it was not a problem for them at all. So again, this photo is a little bit deceiving, but the height of that bed is honestly like super high. So we worked that out by having them lift me in and out of bed, and again, it was not a problem for them.
And I guess another thing I like to consider now is when we're looking to book, not just this hotel and other ones that we'd like to advise, is a bathroom. That's obviously a key one for all of us. And seeing if there's enough room to operate the chair, if those that need to use a commode, all those different things. So was there any particular hurdles that you may have found with this particular hotel? And it's a rhetorical question for the audience. And how did you negate that? And maybe not this one, but I guess when we return to that said hotel.
Yeah, okay. So again, we're in our newsletter. I'm not sure if anyone receives AQA's newsletter. In that we've put a detailed article and we've pointed out the names of the hotels that we stayed in, what access issues there were or there weren't. So I'm going to share a picture, another photo here of one of the bathrooms that we came across. So as you can see, this bathroom looks pretty accessible, but you can see when the doors open, there's actually no room to go into the shower, and you can't push towards the toilet, for example, and close the door behind you because there's no room. So there was no way I was going to use that shower, especially with the shower chair that I use. So the solution was, again, problem solving. I thought, can I remove that glass? Sometimes, it might be an option, but in this situation, you couldn't. The only other option was to remove the door. So I asked them to remove the door. First, they said, no, we can't do it. And I said, well, I'm not going to be able to shower, this is no good. And then, I spoke to someone a little bit higher up. Again, speak to them nicely and not being angry, because I think when you're angry, it just makes them push back. So they don't want to get into trouble, and they say, we can't do it. And, they don't try to be helpful at all. So what we've done is I got them to remove the door, and let me see if I can find a little clip of that. And again,
I just add, Naz, while you're looking for that one where you remove the door, obviously a lot of the different options change depending on your functionality and I guess, how you do your showering, toileting, and all that sort of thing. And when I look at that, one option was, as Naz is looking how you take off the door, you could troubleshoot depending how comfortable you are with your partner or your friend that you're traveling with. You could do your toileting or whatever you need to do there, Naz. And then I might be thinking, okay, is there a shower at the pool, somewhere within the complex where they might have an accessible setup, which is some cases worked out for me where you can use, and conversely, you might have an accessible shower, but not so the toilet. You can look within the hotel, the main lobby or something where you need to do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's right.
So from Bali's guys, we then went down to Kupang. So this is where we flew. Never been to Timor-Leste before. Again, similar issues with the plane. No boarding bridge. Have to get carried, to the chair. So a lot of parts that we had to adjust again, even though we did inform them that these would be required. But again, some places don't necessarily have all these resources, which we found in the community. Disability is, what's the right word? Not that inclusive, no fault of it, or it is kind of, but, that aware at this stage. But they're very accommodating and will assist where they can. And so we were in Kupang for 3 nights. And so our first game or exhibition, if you will, was luckily just outside the hotel. So it was like an open court. We had a small crowd arrive, some from the local school, university. We even had the nuns there, Naz. I know you became a big fan of the Christian nuns.
Oh, look, they all loved us, I mean, all the students, the supporters, so the university staff. So it was a Catholic university we went to, and that was another one, but they loved us, I mean, they just loved. A lot of these people didn't see wheelchair sports. They hadn't seen wheelchairs, and they were genuinely interested and wanted to, see how they can provide that equipment for their students or people with disabilities. So that was,
And
really
I might just add to it, talking back to some of the challenges, and if I may, we know you're a super quad and you do all these awesome things. Now, you did have planned to have someone just to maybe help with the transfers in particular, for whatever reasons that wasn't to come about. What were some of the things you thought to rearrange that, and how do you adapt?
So again, with experience, like I know a lot of countries overseas, they've got support worker agencies. So in the past, I've got in contact with them and said, look, I need a support worker when I land, and help transferring onto the shower chair, all that sort of stuff. So you can work it out. This time, I did get a support worker on one of the locations we were at, and they were amazing, So it's really important to speak to any contacts you've got, because they can do the research for you. So if there's no agencies, they can find like a support worker. And the support worker that I had was an actual nurse, Josh. So it might be worthwhile talking about that as well. That was in Atambua, I think, where it's very isolated, and facilities were pretty good. Like we spent a day or an afternoon at the hospital. They showed us around at the hospital, and first class facilities, but it's a very isolated town. And again, wheelchairs, I think we were the first people, other than locals, that had spent time at the hospital. So
I think it's going back now, as I know I found for myself, the one, I guess, bit I found challenging, and I guess I had to sort of reframe the mindset, was, to actually leave the hotel and use the public infrastructure with respects to the footpaths wasn't really an option. But, it was still a very enjoyable trip in a different sense, where you take the car to the different location where, it's a bit more suitable and, it can be done. And I know when we were in Kupang, we went to different restaurants, different locations where, when you get to this certain place, it is quite accessibly done. So from Kupang, Naz, we went to Atambua. So how did we get down there? Was that a flight or a drive?
no, that was something I dread whenever I'm going away. Of course, that was a drive, I've got to say, and not just a half an hour or 1 hour drive. It was a 6 hour drive.
So can you repeat that, Naz? Sorry, what did you say?
6, SIX.
6? Yep.
Yeah. So that was a massive drive, and one that you don't look forward to, only because our bums aren't made for sitting down for hours on end. And again, you got to worry about pressure source. So sensible thing, especially if you're not used to it, if you don't know how much it's probably not going to sound right, but how much your bum can take, it's good to sit on your cushion. So on the plane, same thing. If you're not sure, sit on your cushion, prevent pressure sores, because the worst thing you can come back home with is with a pressure sore, because that could mean, you know, weeks or even months stuck in bed. So I was worried about that, Josh, but I made sure I was doing my pressure relief. So over that 6 hours, I was always moving my bum around, you know, just spreading the weight and spreading the blood flow.
And I think I found it really interesting, Naz, and the thing I reflected on was we were traveling with able-bodied people and other people that weren't spinal specific. They were more polio, other amputees, and maybe didn't understand some of the nuances that you know, we need to consider. So the one thing I found really clear is not to assume. You know, you really have to advocate, be clear, and even some of that might get lost with individuals. But you know, really highlighting, saying, hey, you need maybe this extra hour. Can we leave, you know, at 9 instead of 8? Or, you know, just all those sort of managing and just speaking to with the whole group. Because how big was the convoy that we had? It was like, it was 2 cars, 1 truck. It was quite a group.
So you got to remember, so we went there to, again, you know, highlight disabled sports, so rugby, basketball, all that sort of stuff. So we had probably all up about 12 rugby chairs and, you know, day chairs as well. Because although we flew from Australia, there were the locals there as well who had, you know, their equipment as well. Josh, I just found that video of them taking the door off the bathroom. I'll share that. And what we're running out of time. Like we could go for so long, you know, talking about this trip and tips and tricks. But I'll show this video, and maybe we'll invite everyone to join us online.
Yeah.
So this is them just removing the you can see again, it wasn't a problem for them at all, you know, especially after you explain to them why you need that door removed. It's no problem. They didn't want to do it at first, but later on, yeah, they had no problem with it.
Naz, what happened to your hair, mate? Maybe stop sharing. They can invite people in. Oh, are you going in? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just showing now the opening of the bathroom. You can see, yeah, I can get in there quite comfortably now. Whereas before, there was no way I was going to get into that. There we go.
You know what I mean?
So I'll stop sharing. And what we'll do, everyone, I'm going to invite you to join us live here. If you don't want to be seen by the other people, just turn your camera off.
And there was a question in now as you're inviting people in, is how do you handle the jet lag? In this regard, Indonesia is probably not that much of an issue with regards, it's only 2 hours difference, but I'm not sure that, Naz. How do you manage your medication? Maybe do you just take it 2 hours later, or do you just do what your rhythm is?
So again, with jet lag, you know, lucky, like there was only a 2 hour time difference between Australia and you know, Indonesia. So jet lag wasn't an issue. But when I say we had have gone to Europe or Africa or anywhere like that, it's good to start getting used to their time straight away. So you know, you might be exhausted, but say you land at I don't know, noon. You'll be exhausted, but you can take a nap, 20 minutes maximum, you know, otherwise it'll be worse. So you got to push that day out. So stay up and get some sunlight, really important. Go for a bit of a push, and then you'll find out the next day your body is really used to the time zone, and yeah, you won't struggle as much as you would think. So
I think just about Naz, you know, depending where the location is, I know when I travel sometimes, just knowing that if the hotel isn't suitable to you, and it's probably not necessarily in this case, but just change a hotel, yeah. Just know that you can create another option that is suitable for you, and it's going to be, you know, an inconvenience, but there are options as backups, so you can try and remove some of that anxiety. So if you're going to go there, it's not going to be the best setup, then don't worry about it. And then to that point as well, Naz, I know when we were in Jakarta, um, there was a room they kept saying, in this case you knew, but I think this point I'm trying to raise is it's always important to say these are your needs and request maybe a different room, and to maybe ask another person, because you found a needle in a haystack, the one room that actually didn't have the lift. Do you want to speak to that, and then you know how you
into
go
the
about that?
bathroom. So it's really important, and I'll make a couple of points here. But I stayed at this hotel like many years ago, and I had an accessible room, and they gave me a room, and yourself as well, where the bathroom there was a step going into it, so there was no way I was going to be able to use that. And I told them I stayed here, and I told them a rough idea of where the room was, and they kept on saying to me, "We don't have a room like that." And I told them, you do, because I've stayed here anyway. So I got them to look around, and they ended up finding that room, and they swapped me into that room, which was fantastic. So this took a bit of time, and they were convinced that they didn't have that room available, or that room didn't even exist. So with a bit of looking around, but the point there is just asking them that you need a shower without a step, because you're not going to be able to get in. There was another situation where we were in a hotel where all the beds were super high again, and I said, "Look, can you find me, change the bed, you know, give me a lower bed, whatever." And once I explained my needs and why, I think they gave that extra step to try to find another room. So they actually found, or put me into a family room where there was a bunk bed as well. And that bunk bed was like the perfect height for me. And that worked out well.
Yeah,
So
no, as we've invited people in, maybe if you have a question, guys, remember to take yourself off mute, and yeah, ask away.
yeah. So guys, I've invited everyone into the room. So you should get a message on your screen saying join the conversation or something like that. So if that comes up, just click it and you'll be able to join us online. So I know a couple of people have, but everyone else, if you've got a message on the screen, just click it if you want to join us and, you know, talk face to face.
Or throw the question in the Q&A. Now, Naz, card transfers, sometimes when we're over there, again, you know, I struggled a bit where they're quite high. Yourself, you can self-transfer, but there is a height where it can't be done. So in this case, we had four-wheel drives. Can you speak to that and how you negated that?
Pretty much 99% of the taxis, the Ubers, they're SUVs, so they're quite high. Of course, there's no way I'm going to get onto that. So again, communication, I said, "Look, I can't get up there. Can you lift me up?" And they hadn't done it before. You know, they're pretty much saying, "Yep, no worries, we'll do it." And then I thought, okay, now I've got to explain to them the best way to do it so they don't hurt themselves. So pretty much I told them to get close to me. I said, I'm gonna hug you. And I want you with your arms, like, just pick me up, get your arms under my knees and under my bum and lift me up. And they done that, and that was my transfers for the rest of the trip. So I was lifted up and down into the vehicles, and it wasn't a problem at all for them, you know. In Australia, again, it's something that you wouldn't ever consider, or you wouldn't even think about asking the driver or who else to lift you into the cab, you know. But over there, honestly, they're super helpful, and they will do whatever is required. And if they can't, say they're a small person, they can't lift you up, they're so good that they'll just get someone that's walking by and ask them to help. So,
is there any questions that the people wanted to ask? Don't be shy.
Um,
Oh,
Shane, here.
Shane.
How you going? I just want to say, it's not really a question, but I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all this. It's so great to hear about the challenges that you face with traveling and how you've overcome them. I think one story is having someone physically lift you up and put you into bed. Like, wow, what a story. And the other thing as well is like getting someone to take a door off to be able to use the bathroom is, look, to be honest, I never would have thought about that. I would just got angry and complained. So that's very impressive.
Yeah, I think that's really important to, you know, keep you calm. I think that's really important, and describe to them why it's not going to work. You know, you're not going to be able to have a shower and then come up with solutions in your mind. So my solution again, you know, for example, it's moving the bed legs and taking the door off if you need. And if of course they're not going to like doing it, but if you explain to them that this is a solution and you really need it, they're all for it.
Naz, I've got to ask, please tell us about the Bali one. I've replaced it a few times, but give us the 30-second version.
Which one?
The Bali, no shower. You had to go to the Bunnings equivalent.
Oh, so this was a few years back. Yeah.
Yeah, a few years ago. Yeah.
So what I'd done is they booked me into a room that was supposed to be wheelchair accessible, and the bathroom was good, but I actually couldn't get to the sink because what they'd done is they concreted some bars like handrails into the floor, and there were two, and I couldn't get my wheelchair through these bars. I couldn't even use the hand basin because I couldn't get through. So what we ended up doing was going to a Indonesian version of Bunnings, getting like some hose, like I can't remember, 3 meters of hose and a clamp, and we bolted that to the hand basin. So that was my shower. So lucky, of course, there's got to be a drain on the floor. And if there's no drain, I've done it before as well, just tried to make sure that I didn't flood the place too much, but you do what you need to do. So that was my shower, you know, a bit of garden hose and yeah, just having a shower, not in the shower, but in the entrance to the bathroom. And that was it. I've got a photo of that, but I haven't got that ready. So if anyone wants to see those photos, I can share it with you later on.
And I think, Naz, you know, when we're coming to the end here, if there's no more questions, is to really leverage off, I guess, the lived experience community. So I know Shane, if you're still there, he's recently doing a Facebook, I might be murdering it, Facebook, Instagram, with heaps of different stuff out there. So chuck in the chat, I guess, you know, a link to that page if you want, Shane. But, you know, ringing up Naz, you know, you can ring up myself, you know, we all have different experiences. And if we can't answer it, because some of the stuff is quite personal, you know, different managements, all that sort of stuff, we have a base of volunteers, mentors, you know, over 30 plus, and then even a wider audience than that, that we may know someone that can help answer that question for yourself. So I really encourage you to reach out to your AQA. And Naz, does AQA run a staying away from home workshop as well? If there was more to be had?
Do. Yeah, we do. So if anyone's interested, like if you want to join in a workshop where we cover all of this and it's hands-on, so we provide you with a checklist as well, what to look out for, what to take with you, if you get in trouble, what to do, all that sort of stuff. So if you're anxious about doing this, even after, you know, this webinar, and take part, sign up for the workshop, and yeah, believe me, you'll get confidence and you'll get all your questions answered. So honestly, like if you want to travel anywhere, it doesn't matter where it is, make a move, you know, start asking some questions and speaking to the right people, going from there. Yeah,
it's the first time, Naz, it's normal to be anxious, like we've all been there. But once you can sort of get through that small, I guess, perceived barrier, it opens up a whole lot of opportunities. And don't think you need to do Europe in one step. If it's your first time flying, pick somewhere maybe local domestically, do something to Sydney, Adelaide. It's a shorter flight, and you can work out your different strategies and or processes that are going to work for you.
That's
And
right.
as I might come to the end there, and if we stop the recording, we can throw questions to the audience.
Yeah, look, there's people out there that I can see one person on here. I'm not going to say their name, but I remember they went on their first trip after their disability again to Bali, and again, like they were super anxious about what they were going to come across, and they loved it, and thought to themselves, why didn't I do this years and years ago?
Are you talking about me?
No, not you, son. No.
Hmm.
So I'm just seeing if anyone wants to join us. So I will stop recording. Maybe that's a thing.
What's going on, boss? What's going on, Naz?
Look, I'm on the seat, but you can't move anywhere because there's no foot play on the chair, so we're trying to work out what we're going to do next.
There you go.
Trying to look at the options, but going through Kupang, Josh. Dangerous, they brought me down the same way and I thought I was going to come outside okay. They're so helpful, they're so good. We just got off the plane and they brought up our shower chair and our rugby wheelchairs as well. Here's Josh.
And the mic, one more mic frame.
No, it's okay. So I've got, do you know?